Good afternoon and welcome to TalkSports, our weekend program, which is a Saturday sports special. And as indicated, it's expected to be another hard-hitting one because the moment time I said my guest will be no other than the Honorable Ray Roberts, there were the comments coming in that we do look forward to hear from Ray Roberts. We love hearing from Ray Roberts. Very good ideas and suggestions coming from Ray, except that Ray just like to put things out there for people to, to ponder on and the hope that, folks will bite into it. But I know the public trusts a lot in Ray Roberts, and I probably do trust in Ray, so I have introduced Ray as always on the program and invite him to be on the program. Never refused to be on the program, always willing to share his insights. And as you recall, a few days ago, Ray shared a commentary on social media, which had quite a few comments and some intriguing moments, I will say. And we want Ray to expand on that, as well as other things that we have been hearing about over the last few weeks. Obviously, Ray has been involved in quite a bit. We'll also try to talk about the Paralympic Games. Ray is the president of the Paralympic Committee in Grenada, the chairman, and we'll also want to talk about that, as well as other, things. I know Ray is following his cricket as usual. They can say what they want. Ray is a die-hard cricket fan, no doubt. Let me say good afternoon to you, Ray. Good afternoon to you, I hope all is well in a beautiful St. George's where you are, in Calice to be exact, Ray.
You're correct. There's a beautiful sunshine. Yes, over the hills I can see over Guankai, place in that overlooking Fricanti, because many people don't seem to know that name.
Okay.
Some thick clouds. But it's a beautiful area, I would say. It's a beautiful surrounding. Yes, we have had some rain, and you told me you were in Grenada for a week, so you left when last night or
Last
yesterday?
night. Yeah.
Right. Well, it hasn't changed by much.
Okay.
Yeah, it's almost the same.
Good to know that. Well, let me, some of your friends, I don't want to miss out your friends. So, Edwin Sam is definitely saying, Ray, don't hold back. Edwin Sam, New Jersey, Edwin Sam to be exact. Thank you, Edwin. And no doubt we hope to have a very good time with Ray this afternoon. Ray, so before we go on to, talking some of the more current issues, what it is on your side, sporting wise. I know I talk about the Paralympics. I think the folks are in Tokyo by now. Well, some of, because I think there are protocols, so some may have to go later on. But what update can you give us in terms of the Paralympics and Grenada's representation at the Paralympic Games?
Well, two of our people, the chief of mission, Kwame, is in. I saw his picture a while ago on Facebook. Registered, settled in the Games Village. The same is for Nai. Nai has settled in, and in fact, I saw a picture of her training. So, from the impression of the two pictures, I would say they look pretty much comfortable, but very much aware of the challenges of COVID and what they ought to do to protect themselves. The picture there for Grenada is, to me, getting there in the first place. I think it's such a wonderful achievement because, as you know, the Paralympics actually is, you have the FIFA World Cup, then you have the Olympics, and then it's the Paralympics as the third biggest extravaganza in the sporting world. So really and truly to be there, 204 countries participating. This is Grenada's debut. Right. I couldn't see anything other than a great achievement for people who are physically challenging Grenada to be there, and to be there on merit. I think it speaks a lot. It speaks great volume of the few people who are para-athletes and are willing to brave the sort of Grenada or Caribbean environment where you know that people are heckled. Either you call a nickname or you are the focus of attention because of how you walk or how you, whatever it is. So I really salute the athletes. Aishana should be there tonight. She left yesterday. And so our two-member team, swimming and track, with the chief of mission, 3 people. I look forward to their participation in the games and doing their very best. Whatever they do, I think Grenada would come out a winner.
And such representation augurs well for the Paralympic Committee in Grenada as well, in terms of others aspiring to participate as well.
Well, Michael, there's no doubt about it. I try to impact on our coaches, and this is something I'm going to talk about a little later. We need to have coaches who are conscious that able-bodied sport is not all there is. In fact, in some sports, if you don't have a Paralympic background, you consider a dunce in the sense that, as you know, where you are, where you live, there cannot be segregation against people with disability. But unfortunately, I don't think that level of cultural awareness is in Grenada and I would say a lot of the small islands. So that in itself is a challenge which I know that we have to work on. And I'm seeing good signs from people that they're willing to be part of it. I mean, it's a challenge getting people. I say one thing, Mike, and I know some people may feel offended. To me, there's a culture here that let's get some food, let's get some clothes, let's get something to bring for a person with the disability, rather than saying, well, look, let me use my vehicle or my group of people or my organization to take a couple of physically challenged people to the cricket field or, whatever field it is, table tennis, netball. So at least they can be part of recreation. I think that is what we need to see a lot more in Grenada. Yes, bringing the food is excellent. I'm not knocking that. I'm just saying there's more to disabled life, a person with disability, than going on the TV and getting the TV camera. And to me, the TV camera likes that. So I'm saying to my friends and them, there's a lot more to this thing. I'll just tell you something. I hate talking about myself, but I'll just tell you this one. About 2012, I came back from Jamaica. There was a Swedish coach here, and he was talking about Paralympics. We were all ignorant about it. I wasn't there, and then Raul Gabriel apparently tell the guy, well, there he can find one, and then I went down there, and he asked me the question. He said, well, how you never competed in Paralympics table tennis? I said, what the hell is this? We don't know about it. He said, well, you're playing pretty decent, and you certainly would find some kind of traction there. So I'm saying that to say he came here to do this, and he asked for persons, and we couldn't find persons. But it so happened that maybe I was playing, and somebody said, well, let me call Ray. So I'm saying that we have an opportunity in Grenada to twin with able-bodied sports and grow just not able-bodied athletes. I want to say the same for Special Olympics too, because over the years we started, and then in the last 10 years or so, this seems to have disappeared from our agenda. I don't even think the group functions anymore, but we need to get Paralympics, able-bodied Summer Olympics, Special Olympics. We need to get all of these things going because the numbers, if you look at the number, we have 3 schools for special ed. The reason why we have 3 schools is because the numbers are growing. And clearly we need to create the atmosphere and the environment that these people, yes, they may be physically challenged, but at the same time, they have talent that the nation and the country can put to use for many things. I mean, you know up where you are that physically challenged people. The governor of Texas is in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean, there's so many things that we can draw on. But again, Mike, it's a challenge we have as a small nation, as a developing nation, to work on it. And I'm glad that you have used your program to ask me about it because, quite frankly, I am really heartened to see the response on social media, the compliment that they are offering to Aishona and Nai. And I want to compliment the parents too. I mean, Nai's parents, 2 wonderful people. I mean, they come to everything and they don't come to take the limelight. If you don't ask for them, you don't see them. They refer you to her. You say, talk to her. She's 18 now, she's 19. They tell you, talk to her. So here they're making her the focus that they don't have to speak to them about her disability and her challenges. She's capable of discussing it with you. So you go and speak with her. So I think we need to create more parents and most support system
Mhm.
that can lend that kind of ability to our people.
Well, in addition to that, Ray, well, in the United States now, it's a combination of the able body and the Paralympics. It's
Yes, sir.
actually one organization now. So it's governed by one. And obviously, there's some economics in it as well, in terms of the support and the sponsorship and all these sort of things. So in a way, it's how they have been able to send hundreds of representatives to represent the United States, because just as how they put in the focus on the able body, they put in the focus as well on the physically disadvantaged.
Jamaica has synchronized with Paralympics and Olympics. Barbados has done the same. Again, I would say in the small islands, I don't want to knock us, but I don't know, we just don't seem to have that desire to see what first world people are doing and how it works for them. We seem to be happy with two groups. I don't know what is the purpose. I'll tell you the truth. I reluctantly um, took up that appointment because it was difficult to find people. And I want to say thanks to two people in particular who stayed the course, Alvin Clouden and Dion Johnson. I mean, these two people have stayed the course. I mean, when there was nobody to a meeting, you could
Mhm.
depend on Dion. And Dion is one of the leading auditors in Grenada. So he brings a lot of professionalism to it. We are able to tap resources. So I want to salute these two, not forgetting people like Ralph Lord and Vida, who has played a great role, and Charlie George. They have played a leading role, but I'm saying to you, it's not very easy to get. People don't mind giving you $100,
Mhm.
don't mind giving you $50, but you don't need that. What you need is people to sit around the table and make programs that will attract the wider society.
Yeah. Um, that in itself is important. And no doubt, before we continue on the program, there's always a little laughter, and I know Ray always welcomes that. For your good friend Toro, Deputy Comrade Ray, Uncle Gary GLP is back as an advisor to the party. I've recommended that they make you the Minister of Sports and Labor in the cabinet of Prime Minister Jeffrey Pridham, your good friend Toro Deputy. So
I hope
early.
he, I hope he's not staying in the background and hiding it. You know he's a leading role, and you know he will be in part of, yes. We have
Yeah.
created diaspora in Canada and in the States. And I mean, we both born in May, so there is no relinquishing of that position he's holding secretly. But he will be there. Don't worry. Republic of the Caribbean will be part of it.
All right. So Tori, I hope you got a message. I know you want to tease Ray very, very early in the program, but Ray accustomed with that. Right. So your commentary this week, well, most recent commentary. By the way, folks, if you go on Ray's Facebook page, it's posted there, so you'll get the gist of it. But in essence, Ray, you are basically calling for what you consider to be a legacy foundation, something that is more tangible than just the jab and the kind of a like activities, when we do have these sort of things. And the time is right, because as you rightly say too, that Kirani will not be running forever. So now is the time to do something. And the gist of it is basically to ensure that you lay a foundation to produce the Kirani James in the future, boys and girls. And by the way, even though Ray centered on track and field, I think what you're basically saying in essence is something that can be used for other sports as well. Okay, whether it's football or netball or whatever it is, but there must be something there that can inspire young people. Ray, let's develop more on your commentary and why you think that legacy foundation is important.
Well, Mike, I want to first of all say to the people who have suggested how many acres of land, so Kirani James, whatever material, I have no problem with that. I welcome it. I say he deserves all of that. The busy highway that you call the Kirani James Highway, the stadium, I'm not debating that. I'm not even questioning that. I compliment that. But Mike, if we really want to make sense of the achievement this young man has brought to Grenada, and you want to do it in the sense that it becomes, you mentioned carnival or jab jab, it becomes an institution that lives on from one generation to another generation. I think the only way you can preserve that is via a foundation, and not necessarily a foundation that is linked to any particular government or linked to any the Olympic committee or linked to the Track and Field Association. But I will say a foundation that can stand on its own, because there's no question about it. The name Kirani James is about the biggest name in Grenada. I mean, sometimes I say to people, I have had a little travel, and sometimes to come out of where I am, because they think you from Jamaica or somewhere else, you see Kirani James, and then remember the guy who beat the American guy to win the 400 meters in London. So you're talking about somebody who has created a worldwide, a global institution for Grenada. I would say that while that legacy foundation has to work in tandem with the Olympic Committee, the Athletic Federation, all national associations, and the Ministry of Sports, I think what you want, with the blessings of Kirani James, of course, is an institution that would, first of all, incorporate whatever his perspectives are on what he thinks he would want to a legacy in Grenada that would be lasting. So maybe he wants to focus on, I would say, coaching development, maybe administrative development, whatever. But I would say with his blessings, once that is done, we work with him in identifying the best talents, both Grenadian who are at home and in the diaspora, and non-Grenadian who have this great solidarity for us, who have come to admire athletics and sports in Grenada as a result of Kirani James. But obviously, we want people with the passion, people who have tremendous energy that would make it work and create a sort of think tank that would just not do the necessary things like provide a scholarship and so forth, but provide ideas that we can chew on and we can finally put to work for the nation. So I would say from my end, I would love to see um, who take the lead. I would say perhaps it's something that the Athletic Association, being the organization that has pioneered that success, it will be something. And they have the talent. They have people like Aaron Moses and Charlie George. They are very well qualified to sit with him. And obviously, he has a great coach in Harvey Glantz. I'm sure he has people in the university who really want to see a legacy for him. So I would say this is what we need to do: begin to recruit the people who he believes and the people he associate with also believe can make a difference. And let this thing take root. You may ask me what are some of the things that from my perspective, what I would like to see. I would like to see a foundation of that nature. Among other things, create create. At one point we were talking about sports for all in Grenada. Kirani James is big enough to have sports for all in Grenada. There's nobody else I see in Grenada that maybe 100% in the population can tell you Kirani James in something or the other. So he has that name tag, that credibility, that likability that could motivate us again to really reignite what we once talked about. I think was during the PRG days, sports for all. This is something that we need again because, as you notice in Grenada, you were just here. Canteen is basically empty most evenings. I'm there. There may be half a dozen people there, but I mean, when I was much younger in the 70s and 80s, I mean, there was a fight to play. Toro will tell you the same thing too. Old Trafford has a half a dozen people. Manu sometimes got no one. The line sometimes just as empty. And you go in Queen's Park, there's just one field. The two major playing facility are very much empty. So really and truly, Michael, we have a chance with Kirani to do something unique that we can quadruple the number of people playing in sports in Grenada over the next 5 or 10 years.
Mm-hmm. Ray, you mentioned some stakeholders, but critical in that as well will be the funding. I think in your suggestion, you said probably a collaboration with the National Lotteries Authority.
Well, clearly, we would want significant contributors. I mean, the lottery has to be if the lottery is sports for all, there's no other person that you can use some of that funding on a yearly basis to help grow that foundation other than Kirani James. So I'm saying the lottery from its annual intake designate, I said quarter million in the first instance, and plus provide equipment for the 82 primary and secondary schools we have across Grenada. There may be a few private schools, and we should also include them. I would say, too, at the same time, the business sector. I mean, so many of us have, I mean, you look at some of our banks, Anderson Peters, Kirani James, yes, I know those are personal and private contracts and arrangements, but I'm saying we could all begin, even individually, we can pledge, small as it is, something to the Kirani Foundation. And that foundation, as I just mentioned, becomes a source of not only keeping his legacy alive, let other people know this is a child from what people call the Lansing, what people say the Lansing gun battle, who has risen to the level of world fame. And he didn't do that through any elite process. He did it through coming through a young man named Albert Joseph, then was able to attract the best talent in coaches in the world to get to one of the leading colleges or university. So we have a lot to tell younger people, and particularly people who come from homes, and we have challenges now with young people. I don't think we are seeing the population in sports in Grenada. To me, is not growing. To me, it's growing in things that really and truly are not futuristic. I mean, I don't want to knock those who are having a pleasure by, some people say they drink a case a day in the afternoon. I mean, at my age, I never drank a case. Shall never drink a case, perhaps. Never drink a case. The one I bought for the Christmas, if you come in the fridge, half of it. So I'm not discouraging anybody from having their fun, but I'm saying to you, the great thing about sports is that Kirani James will tell you that not just maybe the recognition or the financial rewards, but the health benefit in it. So I'm saying that foundation could be the driving force to create a healthier population. And right now, I don't think we have the health in the population that we want. I mean, you just have to look at the secondary school road race. They're among the not too small people, children you're seeing who can't finish. You ask yourself, I mean, is fast food the order of the day? So we have a lot of work to do, and we have an opportunity now that we can have someone whose name is worldwide, who can influence funding, who can influence professional talent. I just spoke to a friend of mine. I think he's listening to you. Freddie is a young man, I believe, of great talent. That is Wilbur's son.
That's Wilbur Thomas, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And we were talking about the same program, and he's asking me how it's going to be funded. And we were talking also about developing administrators. So I said to him, we can use TAMCC right now to create a sports administrator program. As we train nurses, as we train computer technicians, we have the talent in the diaspora. They don't need to come here. I'm sure some of them, as I see, like you, who are, I believe, rich now, can volunteer. Can volunteer some skills to help groom and develop administrators. Because he quite rightly said to me, we wouldn't have Jaleel and them again working for free. No, I said, I don't want anybody work for free. We want to have paid administrators working for sports, not necessarily in the federation, but you can't pay a coach as we paying them now to get any better result than you have. You have to have qualification. And that qualification must come through an academic or whatever institution. It cannot come through being on the national team, and after 10 years, you already become a coach. Yes, you have knowledge, but is that all there is to being a coach? There has to be more capacity than that. So, Michael, those are some of the things I would want to see us begin to think about. I heard a little discussion on your program one day, it was, and one of the discussion to do with football. And somebody said, play all the matches in Queen's Park. How is that going to develop sports? If the standard is what I see now, you could play in Wembley, it wouldn't make a difference. The focus has to be in the nook and cranny of Grenada to get parents, to get families involved. I normally say in recreation and sports. Because if you see your son or your daughter begin to show the potential that he or she can be a Junior Murray, a Kirani, and the St. Peters, of Lyndon Victor, or whoever it is, then you begin to get, more engaged in the sport. So that's why I'm saying to us in Grenada, we should find a way of utilizing the extreme wealth of talent that Kirani has and the value he brings to Grenada right now. Don't let it go for another 10 years when he stop and then, like Donald Pierre will tell you, we all are forgotten as we get older. I mean, it is just a reality. The new generation don't know nothing about us. So we just get old and nobody know that some of us ever did anything.
Right, and you believe that such an idea, such a suggestion, can also address some of the issues we are facing with our young people, especially with the crime and violence. Probably a collaboration. I was speaking to Ambassador George McLeish some time ago, and he was saying something, well, not exactly how you said it, but something with, for example, with the Royal Grenada Police Force, probably some of the schools, whatever, but going into the communities, having sort of an outreach program. Because in your suggestion, you talk about lectures and all these sort of things. Some people may not understand the concept of what you say as a legacy foundation. They'll say, oh, these big names again, foundation, things like that. So, but the concept that we're trying to get at, and if you can guide me to, is something that can have an impact, especially on our young people, positively though, as well as in terms of showing them that, hey, Kirani James, just like you, whether you're from Grandans or from Budgegrove or wherever you're from, you can get there, and probably to some extent creating the opportunities. Guide us.
Mike, I agree with you. Simple, Mike. The reason why we keep every year, let's take the Sir Frank Worrell lecture. I have never met Sir Frank Worrell, but the lecture tells me who he is. I'm saying Kirani is in that same category. History is never dead. It may not be able to do something for us tangible in the sense that it brings us a dollar or two, but it gives us a sense of where we came from and perhaps where we should be going. So the lectures I'm talking about, you have 82 schools in Grenada. You remember you have children too, and I think you have a grand. So that means that you're getting old just like me. And what would happen as the generation evolves? There are people who can speak to children about this young man from Guam, how he came through the ropes and where he got to. We would have the same thing grassroots program in his name. Why are we having it? The Sir Gary Sobers Cricket Festival every year in Barbados. Sir Gary's 85 or 86. But his legacy is brought alive as early as the 1950s to when he finished in the 70s and continuing. Mike, that can only do good for us. People would know that they're not the pioneer of anything. They're just continuing on the foundation that was established by someone else. I mean, I would say to you, sometimes I'm disappointed that we don't pay greater homage to Roy St. John. Roy St. John is the best minister of sports, well, in my lifetime, we have ever had. And the Olympic Committee, all of that is a pioneer of Roy St. John. So I'm saying to you, Scara, I just can't remember how else they call him. Ferron, he lives somewhere in New York. And he gave me how this thing was formed by Eric Gary in the 70s. They wanted to send some athlete to some game, and Gary called Dr. Basinski. That is Alan Basinski father, and he formed it with St. John and a few of them, and it has gone from here to where it is. How many people know that? We don't want a Kirani James to be in that league. We want from generation to generation, we have a sense of the value of this man to Grenada. Winning an Olympic gold medal is nothing simple. It's huge. So we need to pass his I don't want to say legacy again, but we want to pass on to subsequent generation as early as possible. So they could have a sense of hard work, they could have a sense of discipline, because as you see, the young man is absolutely what any father desire or any mother desire. Not necessarily winning an Olympic gold, but look at his tolerance, his humility.
Yeah,
So we need to talk
mannerism.
to
Yeah.
children about his manner. We need to talk to our children about it. So
Mhm.
that's when I say a lecture every year. I don't mean going lecture to you and me. I'm talking about our grandchildren. Talking
Yeah.
about those in the pre-primary, primary. I mean, let me tell you a story. My little niece, Kirani father went home with me a day, and that was in Ghana. And my little niece said, I said, this is Kirani father. And the excitement was there. She was elated to see that so imagine if she met him now.
No. Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. It's something we have to sink in. Junior Murray was our first major test cricketer. And sometimes I'm amazed that apart from the stand in the park where a cricket match play, we do nothing. Absolutely not. Yes, we give him a car, we give him a couple of acres of land, we give him whatever. I mean, that is gone. We would have done much better if we had created something that continues to say
Right.
who was Junior Murray
Junior Murray. Yeah.
and why he became the symbol in the 80s when he played against Australia, and the entire Grenada population stayed up the night to see one little fella from River Road. Not the Prime Minister, a young man from River Road who many of us never met, did not even know. Through cricket, he became our son, he became our lover, he became everything. Kirani has filled that role now.
Mhm. Let me get some comments here, and then we'll go back on the discussion. Tour is just following up and saying, Ray, that he is an advisor in the background. And for those who probably just joining, they will know that, Tour is just pulling legs. Yeah. Ezra Gilbert, hi, what's up, Ray? And Jenny Joseph is saying, Bailey's Bacolet, the best location for Ray Roberts' ideas. Rudian Sylvan from Toronto. We need people who love sports and have good ideas to help Grenada sporting body for a better sporting program. And Toro is saying, indeed, Ray, at one time as young fellas, we had to use the space under the big tree to play when the main ground was occupied with big time cricket and football matches. And Ray Fletcher is saying, what about the late Batai Thomas, name on the stadium? And Kyran is a big one from Kyran. That should have been done a long time ago. Kirani became Olympic champion almost a decade ago. And the reality is we have not taken advantage of his exploits on and off the field. The Carnival-like jump-up celebrations and the accolades given to him is all well and great, but more needs to be done from a training and development perspective for our young talent. Ray is speaking of a book here. Time is running out. The Legacy Foundation is definitely needed for our young people. And follow up, I say, Kirani still has tremendous value in the sport. We have an opportunity to get it done. And good day, Brother Ray from Andy Noel. Kyron said, Ray, that, time is running out. The Legacy Foundation is definitely needed for our young people. Do we have time on our side?
Well, Kyron, I want to thank you for seeing it in that perspective, because really and truly, that's the discussion we need to be having. You see, most times I hear some of the discussion and I ask myself, um, this is just not going to get us beyond. Michael, let me just say to you, we have quality cricket stadium across the Caribbean. Well, my TV is on watching the West Indies. I mean, did the quality stadium make a difference? We have the worst cricketers that we ever had representing the West Indies in our history. In the days of Viv Richards and before them, they played in an open facility. The difference then, they had the passion. But to me, we are not creating the passion anymore. What we're creating now is the opportunity to get there and not to get there via hard work. Um, I think it's too much of talking that don't make any sense. You know, one person, one sports director who has always remains in my thought is Keith Joseph and to a lesser extent Blundell Church. You know why? they they may not have focused on whether or not we went to the Olympics or we went to the Curved Games or what. But they focus. I still have some newspapers from these two guys, some of the writings, focusing on the nook and cranny, mobilizing interest in the rural areas, mobilizing interest wherever it matters. I mean, that is what we need to see. We need to see more trained coaches. I mean, most of our coaches, well, they were good national players. Where you going to get? You're not going to get very far with that. I mean, I remember during the political campaign, a contractor called me, a leading contractor. He said, Ray, you're a man I have respect for. Don't make yourself a fool. He said, the reason why we bring in people to tile and we bringing them outside, your people don't know maths. You tell them a centimeter, they have some of them don't have any clue. They're working blindly. We can't work like that. I'm applying the same thing to some of our coaches, that you need to talk in terms of knowledge. I mean, you listen to Canadian guy and you hear he relates the body structure, whatever it is. That's what we want, and that's what we must encourage. The same thing with administrators. Sports, your child is on the team and the parents become the president. Your child is on, and as soon as your child off, the sport's gone. I usually tell people the tennis court that I pass on, go and see how many people you're seeing there. Once the parent done, I mean, the child either stop or moves on, the parent, that's it. The sports, some new people got to come. We need to find a way to get TAMCC. And I want to hear most sports administrators focus on that. That just as how we train nurses, we must say to our administrators, yes, we have volunteers, nothing wrong, but we must have a generation that is coming that is passionate about developing sports scientifically and otherwise. You can't have a parent because his son on the team, and as soon as the son get dropped or the son, he gone. You're not getting anywhere. Look, Mike, I'll tell you one other thing again, and why I'm saying that. And I'm not going to discuss the Olympic committee problem, but I have not missed a meeting on that discussion that went popular and viral. There are 17, I think 16 federations. Once that thing started, just 8 continued. Everybody else gone. Nobody wants any part of the discussion. The problem we have is that you don't have people who go to a meeting and have an interest of the organization. The first interest is the child, or the first interest is whoever is going to be the officials. I don't be any officials. I don't travel. I don't want to travel. The point I'm making, you go there to discuss the issues. Take the treasurer's report. That is something, when I first entered sports in the early 70s, I was just about left school. And I remember I went there questioning. Roy St. John was the president of football, questioning. He tells me, he says, Ray, it's come, you come in. You will learn. You had to have a discussion on every issue. Today, you don't have no discussion. All you have to me is a quick thing, a quick fix. Nobody knows what he or she votes for. And you just go, and you go. And your focus is on the team that going and who is going. Michael, we have to turn this thing around. Cyril Cox, I know he had a physical education course at TAMCC. I don't know if it's continuing or what, but 2 years ago, I know in 2019, I went to speak with a class about helping with Paralympics. And I asked him, I said, how many coaches come to it? He said, not many, if any. And you're talking about coaches, we have 81 coaches in the ministry. I'm saying, if you want to be a coach, you must be mandated as a teacher. Teacher has to go to teachers college or you have to exit. The coach must be mandated to have knowledge apart from being a good player. And again, as I say, a foundation could be a think tank, could be things like that we float around to associations, because sometimes the association really, the leaders don't have the time. But if we're going to go forward, we must go forward with greater depth. We can't go forward and Ray Roberts' son is on the team, so he becomes the president. Well, my son on the team, I done. He become the big fundraiser. It has to be something more than that. And that's why I'm saying that we need to find a vehicle, and we have that vehicle that could mobilize greater consciousness, greater awareness that sports is not just the national team going to wherever they are now, Santo Domingo, in Tokyo, in Trinidad. It has to be something more than that. It has to be something that people see as valuable to their health, to the country, to everything. Yes, the greatest spin-off is to have our footballers or cricketers perform as they performed in the Gold Cup or athletes in Tokyo. Yes, wonderful, but it has to be a little more than that.
Mm-hmm. Ray, I want us to come back a little later to talk about the TAMCC issue, because it's something I had there. And I know you have been touching on it in and between, but that TAMCC issue regarding, because it came up in my last program with Mr. Wayne Maxwin, for example, and I know it's something that some folks have been having issues with, and some of our young sportsmen and sportswomen, but we'll get back to that. Some comments here. Jason Skeet is saying, we live too much for the now. Our leaders lack the vision to ensure sustainable development on all levels and in all areas of our society. Grenada has too much of a rich history for a tiny nation for us to be searching for our superstars. And Toro is saying, basically, to develop, Grenada needs an overall change in how we regard development. The ideas are there, some proposals are offered, and programs are implemented with the best of intentions, but with no national buy-ins, and worst of all, without knowing how the programs will and can be sustained financially. Many have said, but it's worth repeating, unless the school curriculum is changed, we will hardly make any genuine long-term progress from the time the children are born and going into, yes. So I think it was a bit too long, Toro. So, but we get the gist of that from Toro. And let me hear Jason is saying, we have lost the passion for sports because we are sold on the dollar. We lost passion because corporate companies saw the value of the image and likeness of the athletes. We lost passion because of the lack of foresight. And your friend Theo Duncan is saying, good afternoon, Mr. MB and Mr. RR. Theo Duncan. Yeah, Ray. Toro made the point about the school curriculum, Ray. I assume it's on a broader scale in terms of the school. You are looking specifically at something that that can have national bodies, national sporting bodies and things more involved in, and public clubs and other organizations being part of the stakeholders in this process. But what role do you think schools could play in such a legacy foundation?
Well, Michael, I want to start with what you talked about earlier, TAMCC. And I will tell you that, well, you know it yourself. I was president of media workers, you were secretary. We were getting a lot of licks on the competence of media. Whether it has improved, I'm not debating that. I'm just saying that when we were president and secretary, we had a challenge.
Yeah.
We engaged a gentleman named Nigel Grieve-Sandy, who was, whatever was his role in the college, I can't remember his post, but he was one of the people you had to talk to. And we came up with a media course. That media course is still on today. In fact, you would remember, and I still have documents, we got St. Lucia because they pioneered that. We had Guyana, they did the same thing. And I'm saying to you, dozens of people have come through that program. Now, whatever the standard may be, I'm not debating that because we could fix the standard. But I'm telling you, we were able to do that. That was been about 25 years ago I'm talking about. So I'm relating that now to sport.
Quite a few years ago.
Yeah, I'm relating that to sport. In when we did that, we did not have any technology to lean on.
Yeah.
I'm talking to you from my home. I'm opening my fridge to take something to drink. I couldn't do that.
Nah.
Well, even 5 years ago.
We are still writing the letters and dropping it and delay,
Yeah, so that is a fix that is something we can fix. Because Toro is right about the school, that the challenges we have, and don't I wouldn't knock the schools that much. You know, we have 106 sports meets every year in terms of track and field. The pre-primary schools, whether you call it a meet or not, but it's an event. So you have pre-primary schools having sports. Yes, it may be lime and spoon and novelty event, but that's a proper start. And then you have most of the primary schools having sports. Then you have
And
all the secondary schools.
and the private as well, right?
Right. And then you have the Athletic Association and some affiliates like
Right.
St. David's having their own sports meet. So track and field has a pretty good structure from the bottom up. I think the deficit we have, I think the deficit is in knowledge. I think, yes, as I said to you, we have people who are, through their knowledge of playing for Grenada repeatedly over years, they have qualified themselves. But I'm saying that we need to add to it. We need to, and we have to add to it because that is what to me is missing. I just mentioned the word administrators there to you. Toro will tell you in the Bruce Bain era of the Carnage Club. The Carnage we see now with 6 people in town team and sometimes 10. I mean, that's not the Carnage I know with Toro and Yankee Man and Buddy Boy and Eddie Cotto and them. I mean, the names are living in my heart. That was a group, Charlie Hood and the whole group of them. I mean, I know it's a new world, but Michael and all the others who are listening, clubs exist around the world, maybe in a new form. You can't have an institution as a national federation where the leaders are not in any club. All the leaders do come to meeting, get people to write a paper. Nobody reads it most time. I could tell you, I go to Olympic meeting, I go to table tennis meeting, and I mean, I don't even want to go anywhere else. Some people not reading anything simple because they have nobody to report to. So if you have people to report to, you'll be forced to take an interest. So I'm saying we have to get leaders who will appreciate if there's a listening program on football. They coach somebody coaching a team, or they coaching a national team. And some of it, I suppose, maybe they hire anyone else. But if you prove yourself at the club level, then there's something on which to grade you. And that is what we have to begin to do. We have to begin to do just that. We are grading people on maybe criteria that really don't matter. So, yes, the schools, we must have games masters, game teachers, social workers, administrators, because in the school I was no great sport, but I was an organizer. I was an organizer. So we had managers coming out of school program, the principals say you in charge of the boys. So you're learning to manage. We must find ways to bring back these things. Yes, times change, but good morning pleasantries still the same as they were 100 years ago. So there are some things we must fight to keep. If we don't do that, well, I don't know how much we could expect to continue to be a significant player in the world of sports.
Well, and talking about that, Bob Simpson, that's Barbara Simpson, is saying, good afternoon to Ray and Michael. Ray, you are talking real facts. Sports people don't have the passion for sports generally. You're totally correct by saying, what's in it for me or my family? There is not much interest in the grassroots programs, but more so on national teams and the trips. And I think, Ray, you will certainly agree with that.
Well, Mike, I just want to say that on my paper, I had her name to mention as one of the people that when we're talking about leadership, these are the people we should be looking to. Because here she is in River Road, I saw it on Facebook, having an academy for learners.
Right.
I mean, I am often asking, I'm in table tennis, we have coaches there too. I mean, I usually ask the fella, we have, and let me tell you, I have a team, I play with a club too, but it's old men. There should be young people, but I mean, some of them say we're too old. But the point I'm making to you is that I cannot understand how you could be a leader and don't have followers. Joe will tell you, and I know you will say Uncle Gary again, but may you rest in peace. We had that club in Grenadians. It played table tennis, netball, basketball.
Ray,
Course.
just hold, because I had that coming in for you because Toro said, Ray, even before Carolina, used to come down to Grenadians and beat up you and Nautica, well, the late Nautica, and the rest of the PYO in table tennis, football, and cricket. PYO was the best funded club in Grenada. Boy, Uncle Gary took care of PYO. So I just wanted to interrupt you so you can continue now.
Right, so the point I'm making, we had an organ, and it wasn't for 1 year. That went until, I'll be fair with you, it went until 1982. Some of us were gay rights, some of us didn't fancy the PRG, and some people just decided they're not going to be part for a while. And it came back after the PRG fell, and, you know, I was telling you, I continue to be a member. I didn't run to. I continue to be a member. But the point I'm making, look, Paradise. I also have Paradise named down on my list here. I had Mad Paradise in St. Andrew. Ladies football. They have a village. They have a community involved in sports. I mean,
That's true.
Michael, Queen's Park Rangers. I could never forget Queen's Park Rangers. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better village than that. You know how much although I eat downstairs the pavilion? Will Smith, Tommy Cannot. I mean, Harold Pie City.
Mhm.
We found pleasure in being. Now you could still have all of that, no, because you have it, What you don't have is that nobody is prepared to passionately work to do anything. Everything has to be entertainment, and if it's not free, well, perhaps somebody will pay for it for you. But sports, we as leaders, and I'm saying we because I'm in sports still, we have that obligation to Kirani James. We failed in the Junior Murray case to make it work, but we must make it work now. And I would call on Aaron, who's the president, and a wonderful talent, I would say, with a lot of technical skills. Yes, he may not be an athlete, but has a lot of professional skills to draw on people to, first of all, I guess you have to consult a Kirani and get something like that going because it has the capacity to bring resources, to bring talent. And I'm saying to you again, that is what our sports need. We can't grow on just the two people or the half a dozen people who play Grenada team and get into the Ministry of Sports as a coach. We have to start to talk about people who are at the level of the world, the Conrad Francis and them. Conrad, I'm not saying that you're getting old, but I don't think that you're getting young. So we need to see a lot more qualified coaches with the certification, and we must not ignore it because that's what gets you in the door. If you don't perform, then you get fired. But that's what gets you in the door, and we must encourage, we must demand it of today's generation. It might be something 20 years ago we didn't need, but today we need it, and we must demand it because Chenny would tell you in football, he was a player. A lot of it now is via people teaching you technically and speaking in technical terms, and you have to interpret it. So the player must be, they're talking about Jason Seals, the Trinidadian fast bowler. Didn't you hear the commentator? He has an understanding of maths, he has an understanding of physics, he has an understanding of, he's 19.
90,
And
yeah.
they make the mention, why they making that mention? Because as they say, in bowling now, it's just not run up and pitch a ball.
Yeah.
It's more than that.
Yeah.
So we have to create that kind of thinking among the generation that is emerging.
Mm-hmm. And I recall the coach from Canada, Michael Finley, even speaking about that in regarding football, getting the players to understand is not just kicking a ball, but there, as you say, there's a science to it, and understand it. Michael Stephen is saying, excellent program, good points to be elaborated on with a view to develop sports on the national agenda. Ray, but in and between, while you're making your point, something is glaring there. And just recently you mentioned it there too. Because a great buy-in to that too, Ray, is having the proper club structure in place. And something I know you have been clamoring for over the years. Yes, you mentioned Paradise as an example, and probably Queen's Park Rangers, then Carnage, then not now, probably, even though there are attempts to get these things, revitalize and thing. But how important, Ray, for us to have these proper club structure in place, especially in Grenada, okay? Because as you say, lack of proper sports administrators. Yes, we can clamor for TAMCC to have programs, etc., etc. But as you said, in your time growing up, for example, Ray, there was a hands-on experience. Okay, even at the school, you get the opportunity to manage. You get the opportunity to be the team captain, etc., etc. So by and large, they were instilling in you some level of leadership at an early age. We have what we say teams now, Ray, a lot of teams. And what you will find is probably the coach is the manager, he is the team's representative at council meeting, everything. And there's no proper structure in place administratively as well. How important you see that, Ray, for the ideas that you are pushing around?
Well, let me say, glad to see the PS in sports participating. That's wonderful. Mike, good afternoon to you. Um, Let me say this. Again, I'm going back to the growth of people. The reason why we have reached where we are now, Michael, is that most of our coaches and our people who are in sports, as I just said to you, we follow a trend where we have a parent who whose son or whose daughter is on the whatever team, and we then pick that person unconsciously to lead the sport. Now, I'm saying I understand that will continue for a while because really and truly, some parents come into this thing and they are overzealous. They're raising the funds, they're doing everything. So you put them to lead, and that is the criteria. I'm saying there has to be a greater criteria, and that has to start with the knowledge of why you're getting in sports. So it has to be compulsory for coaches and physical education officers to have that knowledge. And it's via TAMCC, UWWI, SGU, whatever tertiary institution you may want to choose. Because you know, Mike, and Freddie would tell you the same thing. Freddie, I think, is a director of some community college sports. There has to be a structure. But if you don't have the capacity to recognize structure, you only could coach because you are a national player. Well, things will be Vike. So I'm saying that just as how we train nurses, we train teachers, we have to make sports people who want to have a career in sports. Because the people like Nixon and them, that's their career. They're not going to go anywhere else. They are career sports people, coaches. That's what they are going to be for the rest of their working life. I'm saying the people who are venturing to replace them, the younger ones, to get in the ministry. You have, I'm told, somewhat close to 80, whatever you call them in the ministry, coaches about sports officers, whatever. No disrespect. I'm just not too sure what your title may be. I'm saying they, because they are from the community, they must be leading people. And to lead people, you must have something to offer people. So it has to go back to there. Yes, the associations could make efforts, but it has to start. Because if you look, most of these coaches themselves end up at the National Association. And they end up there as a result of a player being a coach or a player being the dominant figure in a club. He didn't come through as an administrator. I mean, Mr. Ashby came through cricket not as a player, he came through cricket as the principal who had an interest in cricket and became the secretary.
Mhm.
So we not just talking as we was there up to 2020, maybe 12 or 13. So we're talking about something that can happen, but it must be the administrators. We who are in sports must work with the ministry, the Olympic Committee, to ensure that these standards become something that, because the ministry works with everybody. The minister met with all sports organizations. Paralympics had a wonderful meeting with her. I said to her, Madam Minister, your coaches must become must have a multiplicity of skill, being able to work with para athletes as well as able-bodied athletes. You don't have that right now, but you have physically challenged people in primary and secondary school. So your coach must go into the school not wandering, but going with authority.
Right.
So, Michael, that is where we have to go. Remember, we're not building a building. It's going to take time. But the area that has to be the focus, physical education, teachers, and we have quite a few, and coaches. And association must also find a way of falling in line. Most media houses now employ people who come from TAMCC. They don't just pick you up on the side of the road again. I'm not talking about how good they are, how bad they are, but at least they set a perimeter that to come in by me, you have to go there.
Yeah. Your friend Goti Robinson is saying it's great to hear Ray reference the period Keith Joseph and Blondell Church and the Sports for All program of the PRG. Over the past 2 decades, millions of dollars have been invested by the Ministry of Sports and the GOC in administration, coaches, athletes, and organizations. I am for a Kirani James Foundation, but it must be set up by Kirani's management team, people they select. Ray, you know of my struggles to make a contribution with outstanding issues with the GOC. Foundation normally, and he says raise, I assume it continues with some other issues. And Ray just Richard Mona says hello to you. Richard Mona, Carnage fame, lives somewhere here in New York. Yeah, Ray. Well, yeah, as we will see, is a suggestion, is an idea, and obviously is the opportunity for a conversation on the Legacy Foundation.
Well, I want to agree with George. It has to be an independent organization. It has to be an independent organization. And yes, maybe he would want to do it, but I think the track and field as an honor to him and Grenada as an honor to him should offer him that as one of the pillars of recognition. It's some people, I really don't like to celebrate myself in anything. So you would not hear me. I would leave and go if I know you have to do anything that will make me feel that I'm doing something. There are people like that. I don't know what kind of person is he in terms of that. But I'm saying it is something we must do and recognize that as the greatest tribute. Because a small man on the road could give $50 or $10 or $5 to that foundation. He may not give it to the Athletic Association. He don't know who they are, but he knows the name, and maybe he could feel that program because the program has come to Gun Battle in Guelph. It has gone to Florida Government School in Guelph. It has gone to St. Rose, Shaper. It has done something for the students there, and they grew up with that knowledge. So that is the focus. The focus is not to set up a government institution where the minister calls the shot or GOC calls the shot. It's an institution that like-minded people chosen by the gentleman, but working in tandem, because you have to work in tandem with sports in Grenada. That's where it's designed to help. So something like that I would want to see. And I believe there's a need for it. As I said, the Junior Murray thing, I thought that was a lost opportunity because really and truly, I said a similar thing and, nobody bothered with it. But really and truly, as I say, Junior now has an academy in Tantine. I don't know what promotion it gets or what possibility there is for people to know about it. But as you get older, he would fade away. And so too would a lively history. We have to keep a lively history of these people because they are pace setters. Butler lives on for the trade union movement. How long he's, what, about 50 years? He has gone beyond. But the struggle he pioneered has become and is the banner, the front banner of the labor movement.
Mm-hmm. And I think really the point in addition to that is that we have failed those before and we have an opportunity to correct the wrong, right? Right. And it's an opportunity where even with technology, it makes it even easier. Okay. And, I think that is the important thing. And Legacy Foundation in the name of Kirani will certainly, bring that to the fore. Let's hear what Clevoy Depredine is saying. Where did we go wrong? We should shoulder the blame for this malaise and apathy. Have we become victims or casualties of the visuals and apps, with individuals more interested in the office as officials and not as field soldiers? We're not talking about the PRA. We have let down our guards and allowed the poison syrup of politics to infiltrate an institution of excellence, which has now become a hospice. And he continues to say, but there's hope once the Ray Roberts are still around. Clever saying, once the Ray Roberts is still around. But certainly, Ray, is a good point Clev Depot is making there in terms of, where have we gone wrong, in terms of, the lack of thereof, I should say, and the malaise, the apathy, as he described it, in terms of sports. I mean, the sort of passion and thing we had for sports back in the 70s and the 80s. Well, things have gotten easier now with the internet and all that it is. So there should be more interest, more passion, but somehow to some extent, we are not seeing that. Where have we gone wrong?
Well, we have certainly failed in many areas, but I think there are things we can do to correct it. I mean, the boy and girl in grade 1 are innocent. They depend on us for direction.
Right.
So I think if we instill in them, and we have the tech, and we have the media, social media, the traditional media. I mean, I don't want to get involved in targeting any particular institution, but Michael, again, when we look at our media and its promotion of sports as compared to the 70s, 80s, the 90s, we have to ask ourselves, where have we gone wrong? At one point, we were bringing live sports from Trinidad, steel sports. I mean, when I saw that, I remember myself and Raphael Stanislaus on the beach, and we asking ourselves, how on earth could Grenada be bringing a steel sports cast from Trinidad and Tobago? So that in itself tells you the malaise that we are in, because I don't want to get to both, but I remember I came in with Paul Roberts. Paul was the person who introduced me into this whole thing, and then there came people like Harold Paisley, Michael Bascom, Stevenson Worm. He will tell you that's how he came into this whole thing. He didn't drop from heaven and come down. He will tell you how he come in. I wouldn't tell you. So I'm saying to you, we have the opportunity to nurture, and sports associations, federations must champion that. When we meet with the minister, it must not be just for money to travel. It must not be just for what makes us perhaps be a spectacle in the Caribbean. That is good, but it has to talk about creating that foundation in the primary and secondary schools again. That people, Dauntless, I was told, emerged from a group of boys who left GBSS together and then formed themselves into Dauntless with Walter St. John and his brother and whoever the others are. I'm saying we have to find whoever goes in to be a games master in the school, he or she mustn't go in on the merit that they were in the call champion. I mean, I'm not in any way saying that you weren't a quality champion. I'm saying, yes, you're going the door for the first year, but whoever is the principal, whoever is the education officer, must demand that you go to some tertiary institution to broaden your knowledge. So all the things we're talking about, the importance of group dynamics, why they're important, GFA wouldn't have that problem. Netball wouldn't have that problem. Neither would cricket. Neither would table tennis or lawn tennis. They had teams too. So I'm saying that we need to get these things back. And it will not start with those of us who are mature. We could use those of us who are mature, like George Robinson spoke about it, to help sell the package. Why we need to have strong clubs, or whatever you want to call it. You may not wish to call it clubs anymore. I don't know what you wish to call it. Times have changed. But there has to be a group of people who are cemented together, working for common objectives. You can't be picking two fellas today for tomorrow. When I look at football, the season starts with matches, and you ask yourself, is this a Premier League? And then as the season goes on, you see some maturity and some quality in the play. It has to be setting like what we see in England. The month before, there are pre-season games. Those things must be not the association having to tell us, but leaders of clubs on their own must be able to dictate, if not dictate, enforce, or democratically ensure that it takes place.
Mhm. And just following up on so I was in Grenada for the past week, and I happened to look at a sportscast live. Well, should be a live sportscast in one of the nightly news, and it had to do with West Indies victory over Pakistan, and the reporter actually went to Jamaica, went to TVJ for a report on that. And I'm saying, hey, but this is in the Caribbean. You may have even carried the game. So why can't you just put something together? I mean, even if it's a few paragraphs on the game itself, why do I have to go to Jamaica, to TVJ, to get a package that TVJ did? I mean, it was, but that again, is another. Roger Duncan. Right, your good friend. Let me get what Roger said first. Roger Duncan says the loss of Flo's community channel was a real dagger. It left a void that is yet to be filled. And your good friend Margaret Francis is now saying, Ray to Roger. Roger Duncan, that is an unacceptable excuse. GBN, as the national stations, should be carrying local sports. There is no excuse not to be doing that. That's a void to be filled, as Roger is saying. Good afternoon, Margaret, certainly from Ray Roberts, and good afternoon, Roger.
Yes, well, I would say again, Michael, those are the gaps that we have to fill. You know, Michael, let me share that story and laugh again. let me tell you, I remember in I think it was 76 or 77. Grenada came last in the Winner Islands cricket tournament. In fact, all three teams beat Grenada, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, Dominica. So Eric Gary was mad. So he called a meeting of all sports people in York House. I remember I went to that meeting. So he didn't know me yet. So he made it clear that Grenada cannot be the team at the bottom of the table in cricket. Grenada has to be a spectacle always. So he said, look, here are my proposal. I'm going to send two players initially to Algrova, which was the top cricket school in the world then. Kenny Hobson and Raphael Crony were the two people selected to go. And he forecast that we will play Shell Shield as an individual nation at some point. Well, that never happened, and that will never happen. But I'm just telling you, that was so important that he called a meeting of all sports people. The point I want to bring to you there, sports people had a chance to talk about the deficit of sports. And one of the deficits that came out was there was no sports report on Radio Grenada. So Eric says, let's fill the gap now. So he says, who you recommend? One of them fellas say Ray Roberts. He said, who's Ray Roberts? Fella say from Grenadians. So he said, stand up. He said, I live next door to Theodore shop. He said, oh, good people. Vida will never forget that. No, I'm telling you that. So Paul, who was the person there, I had to link with. And that's how my thing, I used to write for the Torchlight voluntarily. The Torchlight, Mr. Xavier was the editor, and I used to ask me to do one. Every week I bring my stuff there for him. So I'm telling you that there are things that I'm seeing now, and they tell me it can be fixed. I don't know how it can be fixed because they are not major things. Margaret worked in the radio station. She would tell you the same thing too. Margaret was no big fan of sports, but she did write sports and write it properly, not West Indies, one for naught, and West Indies, all that kind of language, appropriate language. And Tor will tell you, Phyllis Code, a day somebody didn't come to read the news, I had to read the sports. So when the news time done, I went and read the sport. Phyllis Code called a meeting. She said, Ray, if the newscast ain't come, you have to read both. So I'm saying that to you. And then there was Patrick Spikel, who to me is the best news editor we have ever had. His
Yes, man.
position was you have to learn to write news and sports, and your sports must also be flavored with what's happening locally.
Mhm.
So I'm saying those are editorial positions, and those were not just old talk. Those were editorial positions that you have to fulfill, and you're subject to accountability at the next staff meeting. So there are things in sports which we can fix easily, particularly the rebirth of clubs. There is no question about it. We could fix that. I'm not saying as how it used to be. I mean, I am staying here and I'm engaging in meetings these days via Zoom. The minutes
Mm.
read, the treasurer's report read. So again, we could have clubs where we never even perhaps engage, but we engage via Zoom and we express ourselves. So we need to find a way to join with the ministry, Olympic Committee, that we place emphasis on the revival of organizations within national federations.
Mhm. Let me get some comments here. Clev Deputy is saying Ray table tennis sneakers was also his Sunday school shoes. And while spinning the ball on the board, I'm sure he had to be careful of the sole not coming loose. Uniforms and sporting gears are now at the fingertips of athletes. So it's management and vision, mentoring and media slash PR. Bob Simpson is saying, but Michael, thanks to your program, many sports news are taken directly from your program. Always a pleasure. Um, Margaret is saying, Michael Ray, maybe it's time for you both to start an online sportscast. Toro go be the sidekick. Toro says, Margaret, I will play that role. Good, good. And she says, Kana was a good help on weekend. Well, yeah, the Kana wire service in particular. You go and you get the updates and things like that. So, the news, Lincoln is saying the news had to go on time. Camo, and I think you're referring to Camo McBarnett, end up reading news a few times too. And then Margaret Lincoln, Deputy Indeed Toro, the show had to go on regardless of who was or was not there. I don't think it's something you will find happening now. Okay. PRG people were passionate about sports, according to Toro. Remember Morris and Bernard vexed one time when West Indies in Australia get a set of licks. They said these fellas have people setting up all night and playing the fool in Australia. So even leadership, it appears that were, getting involved. Laura Thatcher Fletcher is saying it seems that clubs have to be everything these days. Execute the sport, but more so now on branding the clubs and marketing the children. Yeah, Ray.
Right. Well, thanks for the comments. We can learn from each other. But Mike, here is what to me could create a new dispensation for our sport. Um, I have seen it happening when I was the president of the Disabled Council, where you were able to access opportunities via the St. George's University. And Ms. Gabriel, who now is the coordinator, became the quality person of administering the council that she is. I'm saying, as part of our foundation, and I'm saying ours because it's Grenada,
Yeah.
we could begin to utilize all the talents that we have in the diaspora. And I noticed we have what? A very active coordinator of the diaspora office, Derek James. I've worked with Derek James. Margaret told myself, we were all workers at Radio Free Grenada. And I'm saying here is an opportunity again that we have a starting point that not just annually, but maybe quarterly, we could begin to use the talents who are in a particular profession in sports or in whatever field to begin to talk to our coaches or administrators. This is a COVID period where activities are not going to be in the field. But again, this is a time that we could help grow our administrators, our coaches, and even the nation in sports. So I'm saying there are challenges that we have now that we can begin to, if not experiment on, but we could start to work on it. And if we don't do that, Michael, I don't know that the floodgates of great of an exit of wonderful talent will just flow, because I listened to your friend Wayne McSween, a gentleman I like very much, and he's talking about how disgusted he is about athletes going to the Curfew Games and there is no podium. I mean, why should a coach have to go through that? If there's greater participation and people know things are happening, we are forewarned that we have to do something for, and it's, let me put it this way, and it's generally poor people, children going to these things. Eh? I'm not being offensive, but it's generally poor people, children that are going, people who are at the bottom of the ladder in terms of income. So we got to begin to see this thing as something viable. That if we take this period, we're not going to be able to do nothing much, I would think, until we get some kind of handle on COVID. In the meantime, we begin to use the machinery that we have to see how much we can treat with a small group, and hopefully it could blossom into a bigger group that could make this desire to create a population that is passionate about sports as a Jamaica. We can do it, I think. Iceland population is, I think, 400. It's just under 500 million people. They played in the European Football Championship. So population, yes, is a deficit, but just think about it. We have small nations that have played into big things and done well and have good structures. So we could begin to look at them and start to do some of the things that they are doing in our own way, not following them step of the way, but see how we could curtail it. We can curtail it or tailor it to suit a Grenada scenario.
Let me see. Ray, yeah, let's get some comments because I have two important topics I want you to give your comments on. But Clever saying Ray William Kojo, may his soul rest in peace, did a fairly good job too. Chenny Joseph is saying, Mike Ray, will a sports symposium help jumpstart the process? On a separate note, thanks Ray Margaret Toro for jumpstarting my journalism career. That's Chenny Joseph, who also tried something in the media, in the sports media some time ago. And Roger Duncan is saying, there's no obligation of a private entity towards civic responsibility. What incentives are there from government, who must have a vested interest to motivate private entities like the majority of our broadcasting networks to ensure that they play their part? When the bottom line is what primarily matters, then bottom line language must be used. Tax returns incentives is one such global language. Ray, before I continue with the comments, I think the point Roger is making is something I think that is even was mentioned in Trinidad and Tobago post-Olympics. And then Jamaica, to an extent, I think was a follow-up to Usain Bolt comments in terms of the private sector, the role of the private sector, government playing that role. Assisting in the role, providing, like as Roger says, tax incentives, for example. It's not always government's contribution in terms of dollars and cents, or direct handouts of dollars and cents, but sometimes the role it plays in enabling the environment. For example, ensuring that the corporate Grenada plays an important role. By why and how? Providing incentives. Tax incentives are one. There are other ways they can use to, incentivize, as they will say, corporate Grenada to be more involved in sports, sponsoring sportsmen and women, sponsoring clubs, and I say clubs, not teams, right? And be more involved, especially in community sports, right?
Well, let me thank Roger for his piece there. And yes, Chenny was one of the young ones who came into Radio Free Grenada. And Chenny
Young,
was
enthusiastic, and enthusiastic.
he was part of the sports desk. He was one of the young ones. I guess that's why his brilliance is shown in football now. Roger, that's a nice point that you have made there. But Michael, nothing will come out of it if the leaders of the various sports federation through the Olympic committee value these things. You see, I hate saying this. I go to meetings of these organizations. I have never heard in the last how many years anything talk about a symposium on the way forward for sports. I have not even heard the ministry talk about that. In fact, we have had no discussion in Grenada. I can't even remember when Kirani won 2012. I don't even think there was a forum on how do we find um, areas that we can use to grow what we have. So the incentives he has spoken about. If sports organizations see that as important, they make it part of their portfolio. They mobilize other associations, make it a part of the Olympic agenda, and then engage, the government, the ministry, through the Ministry of Sport. But we don't see these things. So that's why I'm saying, yes, we have all these wonderful functioning sports federation who are traveling far and nice clothes and nice everything. But Mike, we are not growing a root. We are on the surface. We need to have strong roots. And that strong root will only come from when we sit down to have discussion as an organization that put in value on sport. Huggins and Julian, well not Julian, and Hubbards and SGU and all the big companies in Grenada, as far as I know, they have annual retreat where they focus on how to outwit their competitors, how they can create a better customer service. I have not seen that in Grenada sports for how many years? I have not seen it in Grenada sports. I mean, we talk about the sports casting. I mean, I I draw to your attention Gary days in that is 1977. Gary brought sports organizations together to discuss Grenada coming last and how could the government ensure that that does not happen again. Well, you may say it's politics, you may say idle or whatever it is. But if you value that, I don't value that as idle. Because if you look at I told you that already, but I'll repeat it. When my mother was in hospital 2 years ago and died after, in a room, 8 people, 6 people either lose a part of the leg or arm or whatever, diabetes. None of them was 60. So it shows that we have a serious problem of health among people who are middle aged and people who are even younger. What could help us with that? Sports and games. Not representing Grenada, I'm talking about. I'm talking about encouraging people to walk 3 miles a day,
Yeah,
encouraging
recreational.
people,
Yeah.
yeah, to eat the right thing, encouraging a family to maybe buy a table tennis ball and put in the veranda, put downstairs, so you can exercise in a family environment. That's what I'm talking about. So I'm not meaning that GFA or football or cricket and netball had to organize a tournament for what Grenada to come and compete. No, I'm saying recreation, meaning we have fun. There is no winner, there is no loser. That's what it is. And the incentives we're talking about from companies and for companies and so if they support sport will only come if we sit as a federation and mobilize other federation and represent and make representation to the government. And I
Mhm.
think the prime minister, who I know, I think he's passionate about sports. I think the weakness in sports here is that, unfortunately, the group of administrators we have, I don't think really and truly they focus on grassroots and a domestic program. Yes, we have some football doing that. We have a little netball there, but talking about the entire sporting community in Grenada, I don't get the impression that there is the that. I mean, I was in Grenville twice this month already. Last week, Wednesday and Thursday gone. I drove to two playing fields. Progress Park, I think I saw 5 people in Progress Park 11 o'clock in the day. And I drove up to the convent, the basketball court. I saw 2 animals there. I think it might have been goat or sheep. I mean, this is what you call the summer vacation. I mean, yes, life has changed. But again, let's go back to the Blundell era or the Key Joseph era. They had something called Holiday Recreation Program. Vida did a bit of that when she was director of sports or permanent secretary. Yes, it's COVID, but couldn't we find a couple of these activities that can be reduced, whether it's online or whatever it is? So there has to be that consciousness from we who are in sports. It wouldn't come from the government just so. Yes, the government has a responsibility, but we must filter ideas that will make the government want to say, look, we have to begin to listen to this group.
Talking about filtering ideas, Ray, Clef Deputy is saying, Bascom, I think you, Ray, and Toro and others through the diaspora office not set up that, well, he's saying, set up a 2-day seminar in Grenada, no Fukmush forum, but something memorable and educational to bring light to all that is being discussed here today. Clef, I toying with that idea because I understand what you thought. It's very important, and as you say, no Fukmush, something serious. And something we can give some thought to. Toro Deputy is saying sports in Grenada media is thrown in as filler, people reading scripts, and it's often evident that they don't know what they are reading about or who they are reading about. But it's not their fault solely. Find people who are willing, able to do sports, which is a specialized area of news. You don't take a competent neurosurgeon to be your meteorologist at your media house or your bush doctor to be your health specialist reporting on COVID-19. Gordon is coming back, I think, with his point. Bas, my comments went on to say funds for the development of projects, sponsors and contributors to foundations' first priorities are well-presented projects and accountability. The reason we are where we are today is because federations and organizations depend on the ministry and GOC for funding. In the 70s, 80s, and 90s, the ministry and GOC supported federations who were able to raise sponsorship. Best example, the OECS Athletic Championships. And Margaret is saying indeed. And Babs is asking about our sports policy, Ray. Probably Ray will come back and give us some more on that in a while. Outside of Real FM, media houses in Grenada are not interested in coverage of sports meet, cake sales and barbecue grills, competitions, sad. And Bob Simpson is saying the Northeast Vandam netball tournament was revived this summer, and that was admirable. Something to think about during the summer vacation. Ray, the sports policy?
Well, I'm glad to hear that there is the revival of the Vendome tournament because I could remember that in the 70s. Yeah. And that's where the people like, what's it name, McFeel? Can't remember her first name, sorry.
Yeah, I try to remember, but some of them came out from that area there, from the Vandome, Bolio, Boca area. Yeah.
He was a magnificent player, great player. Right. The sports policy, again, I read a bit of it and I certainly had to comment on the Paralympics part, but I could understand it's new and maybe not, something that maybe the writers maybe thought of in a great way. But it's something that, again, we would need to not discuss among 6 or 7 or 15 national federations. It's something we have to make just as the national budget. Because remember the sports policy covers each and every single Grenadian, the 112 or 15,000 of us. So it has to be something that has great media promotion, great media awareness. And I don't want to escape that part that Cleveroy focused on there about the diaspora, because maybe Mike, you the only forum now, and Babs is right, that really communicates sports in I hate saying it that way, in an intelligent way. I mean, so we play some clip from Trinidad or Jamaica. I mean, I would have heard that already. So I'm not saying it's not intelligent, but quite clearly we need to communicate sports in the way you are communicating sports. And I would think that the authors or the writers or whoever is in charge of it, the Ministry of Sports, need to make this thing something more than just a document, which I have and has not been discussed in 2 years. So I would want to see maybe activities held around the nation, snippets be created into infomercials, so people can have a real sense of what this thing is about. And again, the Kirani James name is the name that would make this, if not arouse interest, but
Right.
certainly stimulate more people than anything else. Because of sports policy by itself, really and truly, is the George Robinson, Ray Roberts, and Toro and Cleveroy, and a few people going to be showing up. We don't, perhaps we need them, but we need the Joe Blow who may never have an interest in sports, but may be stimulated by the name of Kirani to come to listen and find interest and begin to be a promoter or a salesman for what that sports policy has to offer Grenada, Carriacou, and PT Martinique.
Mhm.
In fact,
Um,
there's a guy you interviewed, Trevor McIntosh. I speak to him quite regularly, and
oh,
he
that's
has
he's in Carriacou, eh? He's in Carriacou
he
now.
has
Yeah.
some ideas for sports. In fact, I'm not talking about coaching team and so forth. I'm talking about the bigger thing as to growing grassroots sports and so forth. I think people like him, we should make a lot of more use of. Because, as I said to you, the coaches, to me, sometimes I feel sorry for a lot of them because really and truly, sometimes they complain that the job is static. It is static because really and truly, I mean, after 10 years, there's no promotion, there's nothing. But that promotion will come. If you get a sense of what sports and physical education is, it's not something that after a while you're tired, so you start to grow a big a tummy. It is something that perhaps you can become more than what you think. Right now, I see nurses are offering home service. So, yes, you are a coach with GFA or netball at the ministry. You can begin to offer service to the community because many of our people, I mean, they just after a while just find recreation not part of them. But you can create activities in the community that I'm sure could be paid for. And as far as I know, physical education right now, I mean, the vaccine, people are talking about the vaccine. Some people would say that they're not going because of their health condition. I think there's a need that we should create some avenue to encourage people to get physically fit, and perhaps that may be a motivation thereafter for them to take the vaccine. But we need to see sports again, as I say, more than the team traveling, more than just a competition. We need to find ways that people would be that enthusiastic. So when there's a GFA match, people come to see football out of a love for the game, not out of maybe my son playing or my daughter playing, but more than that, I am here because I appreciate the value of sports.
um, Ray, I want to go into one now that, and I know your good friend Toro may want to jump in and tease you about it, but it has to do with cricket, Olympic recognition for cricket, and cricket at the Olympics, possibly in 2028, Los Angeles. Ray, do you think that we will see that, and you think that it's an opportunity for not West Indies per se, because West Indies would not be recognized in terms of the Olympic movement, but nations like Grenada and others, probably an opportunity for them to feature internationally?
Well, I'll be fair with you. I will tell you that for me, outside of athletics, volleyball is the best prospect for Grenada and the Caribbean. You have tall people, 6'8", 6'6", 6'5". You have the beaches. You have all that I think that is desirable. I mean, so cricket, yes, you talk about, but I'm telling you, I don't see much of the Caribbean really, whether it's T20 or 50 overs. I don't see them featuring. I mean, we don't listen, Michael. I mean, I remember in the days of Abid Ali and Solkar bowling for India in the 70s. They were bowling 70 and 80 miles an hour. Whereas Hall and them were bowling 90 miles and 95 miles. The fastest Caribbean bowler today is Shannon Gable from Trinidad. Well, sometimes he bowls 145 Ks. Look at the current team. Very rare a fella reach 1 for 40 Ks. 125, 130. Yes, he's bowling good. But look at India. India got four fellas constantly hitting 140 or 135 or thereabout. Look at Australia. One man hitting 150. So I would be fair with you. I really don't see the Caribbean having any great future in whether they have T20 cricket. We're not doing the grassroots work and we don't have the programs. I mean, so I think our best chance, if we're looking for a second sport in the Caribbean, it has to be volleyball. I mean, look at the big guys. We could easily develop this beach volleyball thing to me in the Caribbean. So for me, boxing, volleyball, track and field are the sports that really and truly, as some people, I say to some people, in the history of Olympic swimming, a fella called Nesty from Suriname is the first
Suriname.
man
Yeah.
athlete to win a
Black.
gold medal. And he wasn't living in Suriname.
Mhm.
And then there's George Bovell, the fifth from Trinidad, a bronze. This year, no Caribbean athlete reached the second round in the swimming event. Does that tell you a story? I mean, the point I want to make, it takes more than just having the stadium in Queen's Park to develop these things. So yes, we may have some natural talent and T20 cricket may offer us opportunity. Well, the way it is zoned, we in the Americas, so we will have a finalist, one or two finalists, just as how they zone football to qualify. Cricket will be that same thing. So you may find Barbados, Jamaica, maybe St. Vincent, Grenada may qualify. But really and truly, I don't see us being an athletic power in cricket because the infrastructure is not there. It's not there. I mean, don't get vexed with me. I'm only saying I haven't seen a tournament, a 3-day match in Grenada for the last how many years. I see a T20 tournament. How are we going to produce test cricketers with a T20 match? I mean, it's just the same about all the other islands.
Well, your friend Toro said, Ray and Bascom forget cricket. Cricket in the Caribbean gone through. All you must take a look at hockey too. There are some good black players in the National Hockey League that will be willing to help out. Players like P.K. Subban, whose parents are Jamaicans. Alana John, who is the mom of Nazio John, is saying, I know that Grenada has a lot of talent when it comes to sports. Getting the young people involved in the different sporting categories is great. But what incentives are in place to keep the interest of the kids? And just let folks know. So this is Alana John, the mother of Nazio John. Alana is from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Nazio could have represented St. Vincent and the Grenadines. They decided that he will represent Grenada through his father, Fernando. Thanks, Alana, and always there. And Ray, while we're on that, certainly an opportunity. You have seen the young man and, in some of the clips, and even as at the age of, 18, and the way he speaks and everything, what's your impression of young Nazio John?
Well, the first thing that impressed me, believe it or not, is when I saw his father was a coach. And I said to myself, I hope this could create a new Grenada of sports. Because what is missing to me in sports, what is another thing that is missing, where are the parents? I go to Tantine basically Monday, Wednesday, Saturday. That is must. When I finish with you, I go in Tantine. And sometimes I see some parents, but generally there are few parents. And when I saw that the father was integrally involved and good enough to go as coach, I say I wish there are more fathers in Grenada who take that responsibility because it sends a good message, the closeness of that young man and his parents. Um, we need to see a lot of that again. We need to see that kind of holistic involvement. And that's why I preach the word recreation. Because if that bond is cemented from um, kindergarten school to primary to secondary, you're not having one person in it. You're having a family involved. You're having a family involved. So I want to congratulate Mr. and Mrs. John. St. Vincent's a place I certainly have a great passion, a great friends there. And I want to wish her and the son and the father and Grenada that he blossoms into a superstar that we can all cheer. But certainly, Michael, they have set a good example, and I hope parents can really emulate what that family has evolved into.
Yeah, well, I quite agree, Ray. And the father is not social media guru. The mom is, so she does all the posting and things like that. So he does the work in the background. He talks to the coach and whatever it is. She does the posting. Sometimes it used to be the other way around, yeah. But she's the one that, and when he goes into competition, she informs, she updates, she cheers him on, these sort of things like that. So, and as you say, it's a good example of what we've seen with parents getting involved and getting involved not so much in the way of others, but getting involved where they should be, and instilling in them, all that is needed as a parent. Let me see. Pele Dabo is saying volleyball was played in Victoria in the early 60s. Two of the top players were Alston George and Oswald Clovey. Yes, Heads and Bukas. Wow. So they were good footballers and cricketers, but we're hearing from Pele that they were good volleyballers as well. Okay. Chenny said one of our greatest challenge in the school semester here is the nation that becoming a success in sports is not realistic. We need to change the psyche of many. I think Chenny has finished his comments there, but I think he's saying that changing the psyche of many. While we're on that, the next one I want you to get to talk about, Ray, which I hope Chenny may come back and talk about, and which you mentioned briefly in the opening, is the suggestion of playing the Premier League in the stadium. Do you support such an idea, Ray?
Well,
and
Mike,
if not, why?
Mike, let me put it this way. If they get the stadium free and it doesn't cost any significant sum, I would say it's something I wouldn't really fight. But for me, the urgent need of football is to find ways to improve the quality of the game. Yes, playing on a better surface is a contributor. But if you don't have what I call the fundamentals from a very young age and grow into the fundamentals, whether you're playing Wembley or the stadium, I mean, you'll be ordinary. So I want you to get my point. I'm not saying you shouldn't play there and whatever. I'm saying look, I look at these fellas. I still have a picture of Yankee Man home. I promised to bring it for him. In fact, Yankee Man told brother, and Yankee Man was a superior player to Toro. Yankee Man said to me, Ray, my son went to do work in St. Patrick's. I think he might have been working it through. And he's working like gentleman home. And a gentleman say, what's your name? He say, well, they give him his name, Deputy. He say, you related to a fella they used to call Yankee Man? He said, boy, that's my father. He said, the fella said, boy, that man was messy. That man, so he said his son come home and he laughing. So he asked his son, well, what's the joke? He said, that young man say, you were like Messi. No, I'm talking about Yankee Man in the 70s. This is 2011, 2021. Barry James, Bog
No, yeah.
Belfort. You go in Queen's Park. I watch them fellas. I can't, sometimes I ask them fellas, what is your name? But really, you just see me play. I say, I can't remember your name because why? But your name didn't stamp on me. The first time I saw Sampat's name has never disappeared from me. I wanted to work with Sampat, and God bless me when I started to work, who I ended up working with Sampat. He could still tell you that when we went Victoria, I leave Miss Redhead pot up there because she cooked the food. Miss Redhead from everywhere. You don't forget it at all. The point I'm making to you, you had players who, when you see them, they become a fixture in you. You're not seeing that in football. And it has nothing to do with perhaps the president or the secretary. It has to do is that at the lower level, the work is not done to produce the talent that grows into something great. Now, I'll just go off again from it. I had a big engagement in Tanti and footballers themselves. Ray, we should be playing with only local, no foreigners. So I said to the guy, I said, let me ask, if I were you, I had such talent, I would have speak with these guys to find out how I could get the best Grenada players to come to England at a particular time so they can begin to associate with those professional clubs and people, that they will not only grow in knowledge but grow in confidence because they're associating with better players and they're associating with an environment that is professional. So you're not losing anything. These guys are here for you to exploit. But again, as I say to you, if while we see things as playing in the stadium go make it a difference, you're not making a difference. We're going to St. Vincent, how much they get in Guatemala? 11, 10 players score, first time in a match. We come back with excuses again. We have to do the work on the ground. I remember St. Vincent when I used to go back to school playing in the Pop-Up Cup. I mean, great players. You watch them now, you're asking, boy, are they really footballers left in this country? Because we don't do the work.
Chenny is saying here, Ray, you mentioned the need to improve earlier on. I'm in agreement, but better coaches, higher quality coaching, grassroots and youth football. Ray, and while on that, what do you think about the number of football clubs, especially in St. George's, Ray? When we look at the Premier League, for example, they dominated with clubs from the outer parishes, probably except for Queen's Park Rangers and FC Cameron, I think, are the only two in the Premier League. I don't think GBSS is in there, but but generally, and it has been so for quite a number of years, where probably three as a maximum would be in the Premier League from St. George's. What is your suggestion, Ray? And also, how do you think we go about fixing that?
Well, Michael, the fix has to start, whether you like it or not, in the schooling. Because, look, it's not for a lack of trying I see with Kirani James Tangerine. I mean, I know Jason used to try, and I used to laugh at him every evening. It's not for, when people reach a certain age, there are too many attractions to try to change them. That's why it's necessary. And I keep talking the primary and pre-primary. That's where you, look, I play table tennis with Trevor Evelyn. We playing this year, making it 50 years since we played. If you didn't see me for 2 Wednesdays, he called. It didn't happen so. You're talking about from since an era where we were pretty young to where we are now. So I'm saying that the only how we can make this change, we have to ensure that, because the footballers are coming from GBSS, PBC, Boca, Happy Hill, we have to find some way to reach the games masters, to reach the school that could begin to create that environment. Happy Hill may have to become a mentor in Happy Hill Secondary School. So the players who come from there, hopefully they will go in there. But you are right. I am really concerned that the St. George's thing is falling apart and rapidly. When I look at Monuge sometimes, beautiful playing field. If you go there on Saturday mornings, the fellas from Montu come there. But outside of that, it's very much empty. GFA play matches there sometimes. I go to the lines. Well, admittedly, hopefully the ministry would finish that ground because that produced quite a number of players, including the 18 guy who plays for Queen's Park Rangers. So we have challenges, but that challenges cannot be fixed with people who have already left school and drinking and liming, and yes, they play sports. It has to be a generation that is emerging. And I don't know, it's not going to be easy, Chenny, but that's where your focus has to be because, I mean, to me, a lot of things are happening in GFA, but clearly you can't fix the standard. You have to have people doing the work. You provide the resources, and maybe you're doing that. But when you look at Tantine, I usually use Tantine. I mean, it's Lester Smith does a decent job, but there's no real serious coaching in Tantine except what Mr. Smith does.
Mm-hmm. Goti is saying, I want to support the development of volleyball. Like track and field and football, we have tall, young volleyball players in the diaspora with Grenadian parentage. Scholarships in volleyball, do we have any? Um, do we have any volleyballers, male or female, on scholarships? I don't think so, Goti. It's something that it's something we can inquire about. Roger Duncan is saying all football coaches throughout the island must be accredited by GFA and their program meets some minimum requirements before attempting to coach our children, our future. It's done with every profession, accrediting our sports administrators and technical people as well. Ray, in a nutshell, Ray, how important you see as part of the sports policy, the sports national sports councils, the parish sports council, how important you see them playing that role as you indicated there in terms of reviving the clubs and administrators and all these things?
Mike, if we form sports councils in each parish, yes, that would be of use. I think the one in Guam is still functioning. But Mike, the only how we will get to the level of maturity, sustainability, is if we take advantage of what is available to us right now. That what is available to us is trying to find a way to develop the skills that we have through a tertiary institution. Everybody can't go there, but the point I'm making, what we're doing now, it's not going to take us beyond that. We depend on the parent of a child a parent become president, not on the merit that he or she, like Miss John, is really and truly nurtured in sport. It's because it's my child and I go there as a parent to see him and then I start to raise funds and then they make me the president. I'm saying, Michael, we have to, as associations, just as how we sat with the media and TAMCC, we have to use that as the vehicle. Teachers are certified via a recognized program. Yes, GFA may certify you, but people must be mandated now. Just as how they have the CVQ. I spoke about the people putting on tiles. Yes, I have no doubt. One man tell me, Ray, don't listen to that fella. But the fella who tell me that, he say, Ray, it costs more to bring a St. Lucia and a Jamaican to Grenada. I'm saying, look, we have Mike Finley here. We must be able to have people equally qualified as Michael Finley. So he comes to talk to his peers in that context. It will only happen if we begin to, and we must value TAMCC. Every day I say that to people, you know. We must value TAMCC is what will grow us. I say, look, when I try to contest the election in the South, I know people don't listen to content in Grenada. People want flamboyancy. But that was one of the things I did my own little manifesto. And that's what I say to young people. You have a great opportunity if you get any money job. Go to TAMCC and make it and mature it. Because you're not going to climb any ladder. You're going to remain a $1,000 person. The same thing with coaches. You think FIFA are going to employ some coach in Grenada because he coached a national team and he come from and he had Paradise Solution? Come on, that's not going to come in. No way. You have to. You have to. I will only tell you about myself. I started this program. I got to 75 credits, associates. I used to go Miami-Dade.
Miami-Dade.
Yeah, and I did get a scholarship. I have no documents still to go to University of Miami. I didn't eventually go there. That puts me at a deficit. Had I done that, completed that other one, I would have had more credential value. That is what our coaches and administrators have to do. Let's not escape it. I'm not decrying the value of your knowledge as a national player and as a hard worker. I am just saying to us, the generation to replace Cheney and others, we have to tell them tertiary education must be a prerequisite if you want. In table tennis, why I am. The only how a coach could coach a Grenada team to a world championship or to a recognized Pan American championship, he has to be level 3. We have no level 3 coaches in Grenada. So if we had to go, we had to find somebody who is level 3.
Well, Ray, and I'm glad you said that because I know, for example, boxing, and I've been to a couple of tournaments before with boxing, whether it's Pan Am Games, whatever, Olympics and thing. And if our coach, the boxing coach, is not a certain AIBA level, whatever, he cannot go to the ring. So what had happened over the years was that Sebastian Steele, for example, had to sit and allow this guy from Barbados or Trinidad to actually coach his boxer in the ring. He cannot go close to the ring. He can just sit there, right? Now he is certified, so he can afford to do that. But I'm just straightening the point you're making, even with tennis. So it is important for, and the certification comes not, as you say, a lot of tertiary with practical, whatever it is like that. So it's just not holding up and saying, oh, well, I coach Paradise to win Premier League, etc. So I deserve to be this and that, and these sort of things.
This is not called. I mean, this is adorable. This is something we share, we celebrate here. But we want to see our people. I mean, I admire Conrad. When I hear people talk, Conrad was in the same school with Wantarina and them. I mean, what bigger name you want to talk about as a quarter miler, 800 miler, whatever, 800 meters runner? Those are the things we need to begin to create in our people, not some little token thing. I mean, you can't even keep a conversation beyond the fact that you take a team from whatever division. That is okay, but we have become a big league player. Our football team is in the big league.
Yeah.
Our athletics is in the big league.
Yeah.
So we can't go talking pre-primary and primary. We must talk tertiary. And the only way for us to talk tertiary, we must have that knowledge. And I want to close by telling you, Michael, that one of your contributors spoke about that diaspora thing. I think you should attempt to do it. I don't know how long from now, but it would be good to get somebody who is perhaps at one of these universities in the games sports department, how they can contribute or how they see a program of that nature helping, or whether it's athletic coaches or cricket coaches or whatever coaches or coaches in general. But I think we need to champion that wisdom of taking the level of coaching and administration to another level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I agree. I was Club Deputy that made that comment there, and I think it's something I would probably raise with Ambassador James, Derek James. Pele says, just to wrap up here, when I attended PBC, we had inter-house competitions in football, cricket, table tennis, and lawn tennis. Your friend Desiree Stephen is saying, while the sport councils are an excellent idea and best way to ensure that grassroots sports is a priority, we do not have the committed and dedicated persons who will want to give of their time to the development of sports at the community level. Toro is saying here, Miami-Dade and the school newspaper, the Falcon Times. Right, I think you still have a copy of the Falcon Times, right? 3 Grenadian editors in a row, Ray Roberts, Lincoln Depredine, and Lydia Buckmeyer. That must be a record at Miami-Dade, eh? I don't know what you all pulled off there, Ray, but that was a Grenadian coup, Ray Roberts, Toro Depredine, and Lydia Buckmeyer. Editors of the Falcon Times, right?
It was an award-winning newspaper.
Right. Yes. Yes. I remember you. Ray used to send me back copies of the when I maybe on Scott Street at the time. Ray used to send back copies of the Falcon Times. Yeah. That is why we still have the oldest persons around all various sports. So many of the younger persons do not want to go that extra mile to get certificated and qualified. And Bob Simpson is saying exactly this is my point. People are not interested in coaching at the grassroots level. Ask them to coach a national team, and yes, they're interested. But my question is, how do you get there? And finally, the individual coaches have a responsibility for their own development as well and cannot wait for just government and others to give scholarships. What you call personal responsibility, I would say, Desiree, because some of them do always want somebody to hand them something. I'm sure Ray will tell you that he got involved by taking his own initiative, getting involved. being something and not just waiting for someone to say, hey, Ray, what's about this and that? AFNA is offering a governance and leadership training, and it was sent to teams. No one responded as they were not interested. Could you imagine that? And we have so many of them talking about netball and this, that, and you have AFNA. And these days, Ray, these things are done online. As you say, you participate in a number of conferences and meetings via Zoom. And just about everyone has access, whether it's your phone or a tablet or computer, whatever. So no excuses. Ray, some final points?
Well, Bascom, I want to thank you for the initiative of creating that discussion, because it's a long time we haven't had that discussion. And I want to conclude by agreeing with Desiree, but I will also say to Desiree and Babs that we as administrators and whatever influence we have in sports, we must demand it. The teachers know, the people who are teaching know that if they ain't go to the college, they stop and perhaps exiting at some point. Sport has become not just a pastime. It is a pastime, I agree. But the ministry is employing people. The associations are employing people. They must set standards. They must not look for people who, I would say, who have no ambition, because that is the problem we have. We are not setting standards. So I would say to my colleagues in the associations, we are not going to set a standard that next week you must be a tertiary coach or next year, but we must say 5 years from now, anybody who has to be the national football coach, the national netball coach, the national table tennis coach, has to be at that point. So you get enough notice, and we must help you get that opportunity. As I said, I believe, and I strongly believe, we have to put greater value on TAMCC. You just mentioned about the diaspora. We could begin to say to the principal and to the board of directors, could you develop a program that ensures sports management, coaching development, whatever it is? They will recruit the tutors. There'll be a cost to those of us who want to go. But we have to do these things. You're not going to go. Sweden, how does Sweden, with what, less than 5 million people, produce so many of the world's greatest tennis players? Switzerland is a small country. Bjorn Borg, Roger Federer. So we have to sense that these places, it didn't happen by mistake. It happened because the nation set an agenda, and people were mandated to achieve those goals if they want to be anywhere in the value chain. So I close by saying, Mike, and to all the guests, I appreciated the opportunity to engage you. And certainly I appreciated also the comment, and hope that, at the end of it all, we'll see a better sports arena in Grenada.
Okay. I want to thank you, Ray, for always being here and sharing your insights. As Edwin says, very enlightening session today. And Nickel Walters, I agree with you on that, Ray. And Bob says it is difficult to get young people interested in anything, so I agree with Des. And very great program. Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Des. Thanks, Roger, and all those, Cleve, Deputy, Tor Deputy, Margaret, Pele, and all those, Richard Mona, and all those who were part of the program. Sorry, Patrick Simmons, I just saw your comment that you actually logged on late, but you'll have access to the full program. And I want to thank you, Ray. And folks, don't forget that there is, I know Ray is going off to his table tennis as usual, but within the next hour, there is track and field, and the highly anticipated clash, among the top female sprinters in the world. There will be 4 Jamaicans in the lineup, including Brianna Williams. She's also in it. And there's 3 medalists from the 100. Shakari Richardson of the United States will also be there. So if you're in the Caribbean, it will be shown on Flow Sports. I know on Flow Sports in North America, it will, well, in the US, it will be on NBC, in Canada on CBC. So lots and lots you'll be able to. Ray, and just before you go, your good friend is saying, oh, so sorry I miss Ray. Vida, Bruno, Victor.
Vida
is saying she missed you. I know. Vida will listen though, and she will let you know. Thank you for some very good information and good talk sports today. And Edwin says, yeah, if you take this from a business standpoint, some businesses promote their business workers to managers without any training, and they fail miserably, then they get fired. And don't keep Ray too late. He has a bill to pay at Mercy V for all the Guinness he trusts in every night. Ray doesn't drink Guinness. Don't try that.
Let me put it this way. Toro has not given me the credit card that I asked for. He has avoided me completely. Yeah. I know he has stocks on Wall Street.
Okay. All right. So thank you very much, Ray. And thank you very much, all of you, Toro, Edwin, everyone. Thanks, Ray.
Good.
All right. So, folks, that was Ray Roberts, live from, in fact, he's in Cali's, and providing all the bits and pieces and update. Always a pleasure chatting with Ray. Well, it was, it's so nice to be back here in Brooklyn, New York. Spent a few days in Grenada. It was, exploratory, I should say, first time in a while. But it was a bit scary, and scary in the context of why so many people are not wearing masks. Boy, what? This was scary. I refused to use the buses because I had an experience where I saw a bus coming out of the terminal, and as far as I can see, not one single person was wearing a mask. Neither the driver, no one wearing a mask. And I was like, wow, is this serious? And that was sometime last week, And I saw it a couple of times where some people have, some don't have, some have it under their chin. And I mean, in a situation in a bus where everyone is talking and things like that, it's real scary. Please, folks, take it serious. We'll get to the point where, and I strongly believe and see it's happening now, even Canada is talking about that, to travel to Canada, to take the plane, to take the train, all of that, you must be vaccinated. What do you do if you want to go? If you have to go to renew your visa, for example, it may come to a point where you have to show proof of vaccination. It's your choice, yes. But what do we do, or what do we say to the folks who are, doing that, and it's all because of where we are now. We're not doing what we're supposed to do, I don't know what to say, but it's really scary, folks. I'm seeing a lot of things where people are just taking it for granted. There was this talk, somebody's telling me that I don't have nothing to worry about. Grenada is vaccine free. That's the word they used. And I was like, really? Okay. Vaccine, COVID free, sorry. They're not vaccine free, COVID free. So there's no need for vaccine, no need to wear masks, all these other things. I saw, I went to a clinic this morning rather, and a guy came in, and the first thing they told him was, where's your mask? He didn't have one. They gave him one. And he started speaking, and this lady said, hey, before you continue with anything, put on your mask. He put it under his mouth. She says, cover your mouth and your nostril, Yes, folks, it will come down to that, It will come down to that. And I think I'm saying that in the context of sports, because you're hearing now that even here in New York, they're saying come next month, they give a date in terms of certain sports, contact sports in particular, the players and the officials must be vaccinated. It will come to a point where we have to go that way, So again, it's your choice, but just as how you see no smoking allowed here, and you have to adhere to the no smoking if you see something regarding only vaccinated, etc., etc., it's your choice. If you don't want the service, you just walk away. That's all I can say. But it will come to that point where vaccination is very important. And even in sports, we may be affected to an extent, whether it's spectators, whether it's participants, players, and coaches. So please bear that in mind. Soon you may want to travel, and only how you can travel, even with a visa, it may not be enough. You may need to show proof of the vaccination. I'm telling you, it's coming, because you can see it start creeping in already. Yes, they are testing in North America, they are testing the legal framework in terms of how much people can, go, how much they can do. And it's creeping in, the challenges and things like that. So, but it will come to a point where even those in the Caribbean, what legal option do you have if they say that you need to be vaccinated to come to come to their country? You can challenge the people. You can do that at home, but you can challenge the people. If you want to travel to their country and they say you have to be vaccinated, there's no choice. If you want to travel, then you have to be vaccinated. So, folks, I hope you enjoy the program. It has been a pleasure. It's also nice to be back here. It was nice being in Grenada for a few days. Enjoyed the beach. Enjoyed the fruits. Yes, especially the mangoes. Very juicy indeed. The chin-ups. Yeah. And nice meeting some I say. I still didn't get to meet some of the folks that I had planned to meet. Chenny, I'm very sorry, but it was. But one thing I must say that I passed into the stadium area on Thursday, near to the GFA office to be exact, and I saw the young folks. What I was, I was really impressed with the under 14 players. They were getting ready to travel, and it was so nice to see the parents and all those, long to go players leaving, and that was it. But it was nice to see the parents there and ensuring everything before the kids left for the camp, and all of that. And at the same time, there were the under 20 girls on the field, going through their paces. So a lot was going on. And Ray, I just want to add, a lot was going on that day on Thursday. The under 14s, they were getting ready, the boys and the girls, but you had the under 20 girls in the afternoon, mid-afternoon, training, and then you had Queen's Park Rangers getting ready to use the field as soon as the girls finished. So quite a lot was happening. And one of the things I was very impressed with is uniformity in terms of training now these days. You have everyone in their bibs, and also even the Queen's Park Rangers players, they had on their bibs and everything. And it was nice. What I saw there, it was nice. And nice seeing all the parents, and I met some of the parents of the young kids, the coaching staff of the under 14, as well as the under 20. I met them as well. And it's nice. Hopefully we can see that trickling into the senior team. It was nice seeing that on the age group, under 14s, under 20s, etc. Hopefully we can see them 4 or 5 years from now into the national senior teams they set up. If what we're talking about there and what we heard from Michael Finlay and things like that, and the programs that they have in place, once it can go into fruition, I have hope. And it was nice seeing the young girls in particular, so many of them, showing interest in football. I'm just hoping that the GFA maintain that program and maintain something that they can, it can be sustainable, and that the girls don't drop off, and they can see a future in football, a career in football, an opportunity for scholarships, etc., through football. Yes, Nickel. Nickel, yes, because many times the blame game is on coaches. I'm a certified coach. However, opportunities to develop oneself is not facilitated. So there's a discussion going on the side. You can read it on Facebook. I think it has to do with coaches not getting the opportunities. They say that when they do inquire about coaching opportunities, there is not that opportunity available. Thank you very much, folks. I appreciate you being here. And as I say, attention return to some track and field later on. the Prefontaine Classic. There's no Grenadians competing, rather. There's no 400 meters men. There's no javelin, nothing. So, none of our top elite athletes are in competition, but we're hoping that come the following week or so, or the next competition, there will be. Thank you very much for being part of the program, and do remember to join us on Thursday night at 8 o'clock for another in our sports program. That will be our Saturday sports program. And continue, as I say, supporting our sportsmen and women. I am Michael Bascom, wishing you a pleasant week.